Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk about some hard-hitting contemporaries, in particular some of my favorite hard-hitting contemporaries. So the books I'll be talking about today are all YA contemporaries, but you know there's so many different genres and subgenres and things like that. There is YA books, which are young adult books, and there's YA contemporary books, which are books set in present time and just kind of about real life things. And then there's also, you know, hard-hitting, really serious contemporary books, and there's fluffy, more romantic books of the contemporary genre, and there's more friendship. There's just so many. So today I'm talking about the ones that are hard-hitting. And what I mean by that is that they are serious. They have a lot of serious undertones to them. There is a plot that has something happen to the main character, or they are going through something that's really hard, or there's a hard situation. It's just a hard-hitting book. Now, I don't love reading these a ton because I really have to be in the right mindset too, because, you know, they're sad. They're dealing with a lot of real-life hard things that are just quite sad to read about. But it is important to read them because you yourself may never have gone through what these characters had, but it will really enlighten you and understand and really feel for them in a way that you may not have felt before. So yeah, these are some books. They're all different kind of hard-hitting books, but these are some that I love that I would recommend when you are in the right mindset and you want a good cry, because you know these books will probably make you cry a ton. They are in no particular order, so let's get into it. The first book I have is probably one of my first hard-hitting books I ever read. That is Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. This is her most serious book, and it's one of my favorites of her, honestly. This is all about a character named Taylor who is going to like her lake house for the summer. She's really excited because they haven't been there since she was 12, and she never thought she was going back, but here they are going for the summer. She has to confront people that she never thought she would see again, like her first best friend and her first crush ever, Henry. Also, something is really amiss in her family. She knows that something is off with her dad, and maybe there's something that her parents aren't telling her, mainly particular about her dad. So this is kind of like their second chance at a summer because of the summer that happened to them when they were 12, and also they have to deal with their dad's illness. I'll just say that. I don't think like I'm spilling anything. I think you can read between the lines. But I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a very strong Morgan Matson book. She does write really long contemporaries in my opinion, but this one was well worth it. It'll make you cry. It'll make you appreciate your family so much more. And it's a beautiful book. So in case you want to read a summer book, but have a lot of sadness with your summer, this is a good book to read with that. Next up, I have Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. This one is a little bit half hard-hitting, half lighthearted in my opinion. It does deal with some hard-hitting topics, but I feel like it delivers in a little bit lighter tone, not so much like Casey West, which I define like very light, fluffy contemporary. It's a little bit edgier than that, I guess you could say. This one is about a character named Eliza who has a lot of anxiety, social anxiety, personal anxiety. She's also dealing with a very tumultuous family situation, and she is a web artist. Like, she writes this comic that's on the web that's like the most viewed ever comic, I want to say on Wattpad, I want to say. She makes this comic, it's called Monstrous Sea, and it's huge. It's like the biggest thing ever. And then she actually meets this guy at school, this new guy named Wallace, who is actually Monstrous Sea's biggest fan fiction writer. That's right, this webcomic is so big that it has its own fan fiction. If you have your own fan fiction, you done made it. But basically, Eliza doesn't tell him who she really is, that she's the creator of Monstrous Sea, but they begin a friendship. But when Eliza's secret is accidentally shared with the world, everything she's built, her story, her relationship with Wallace, and even her sanity begins to fall apart. I'd say if you really struggle with anxiety and can't find a proper outlet, maybe not find a character that you can connect well with, I think Eliza and Her Monsters is great for that, because Eliza herself deals with a lot of anxiety and pressures from people, pressures from her fans trying to keep up this Monstrous Sea. Like, there's a day she has to do it every week, and if she doesn't do it like right on the dot, her fans are very, you know, adamant, like, where's it at? What's going on? I need Monstrous Sea now. Her parents really don't agree with her doing this comic. She's having a very tumultuous relationship. Also, her keeping a secret from Wallace. So she's got a lot of anxiety that she has to work through, and she grows as a person. So I'd say, again, if you suffer from anxiety, which I definitely do, this is a great book to read because maybe you'll see yourself in it with anxiety and things like that. Next up is one of my underrated favorite reads of all time, and I do qualify it as, I wouldn't say like hard hitting. There's like so many different genres of how I classify hard hard-hitting. There's like lighter hard-hitting, then there's moderate, which I thought Eliza was, and then there's really serious, which Second Chance Summer was, and some other ones I'm going to show you. This one's on the lighter side of the hard-hitting, and that is Emmy and Oliver by Robin Benway. Actually, Robin Benway herself has written a ton of like hard-hitting books, in my opinion. This one I'd say is one of her lighter ones. This one is about a character named Emmy who we follow her when she's young, and she's like best friends with her neighbor Oliver, and you know, everything's going great, and then Oliver gets kidnapped by his dad, and that means, I know you're like, kidnapped. Basically Oliver's mother and dad divorced, and Oliver's dad just, you know, picked him up one day from school because, you know, it's Oliver's dad, so he sees him all the time, and Oliver's dad just whisked him away to a different state and pretty much kidnapped him, and nobody knows where he is. They've been trying to find him for years. Then it, you know, flash forwards in time to when I think Emmy is 16 or 17, Oliver is found by just sheer coincidence, and he is brought back home, and you know, obviously things are going crazy. The mom had moved on. She has 2 other children. She has a new husband, and she's never stopped looking for Oliver, but something's, you know, off, because Oliver never thought that he was kidnapped. He thought that his dad, he just moved away with his dad, and his mom didn't want contact with him anymore, and so Oliver never knew that, but everyone else knows that Oliver's dad was obviously in the wrong. So Oliver's having to come to, you know, be home when he hasn't been home for so long, and he has to reconnect with Emmy. And it's a beautiful story about that, about just feeling out of place, about having something that's really tragic and insane happen to you and not really know how to cope with it. I loved it. Underrated for sure. It's definitely like not heavy, but it's light heavy, if that makes sense. I adore it. Would highly recommend it. Speaking of Robin Benway, we're going to talk about another one of her books that is hard hitting, and that is Far from the Tree. This one's definitely, I think, her most hardest hitting. Is that the right terminology? I don't know. This one, I would say, if you really want story about adoption and foster families, this is a great book to read. Although I'm going to say 3 main characters, but maybe follow Grace. And Grace is an only child who was adopted at birth, and she has great adoptive parents. She loves them, and then she gets pregnant at the age of 16, and she decides to put her own baby up for adoption. And then she decides she's going to go look for her biological family because she feels like something's missing. And then she finds out that she has an older brother and a younger sister that she never even knew about. So enter in Maya and Joaquin. Maya has also adopted. Her family situation is kind of tumultuous. And then we have Joaquin, who has really struggled in the foster care system. He's jumped from house to house to house, and now he's following with some foster parents that really love and adore him, and he doesn't really know how to cope with that because he feels like he doesn't belong because he's been in the foster system for so long. And so basically this book is all about these 3 siblings that decide they want to try to find their biological mother and figure out why she put them all up for adoption. And they also grow together because they never knew that they were related or had siblings. And it's just a beautiful book about family. Family does not come in one shape or color or size. Family is so different. Whether whether it's adopted, fostered, your own biological kids, whether you have step kids or step parents, things like that. You have mixed family. It's just, family is just a unique blend of people together that make a family. And this book really truly represents that. And I love it so much. Definitely my favorite Robin Benway book, I would say for sure. If you hear my child, sorry, school's canceled, so we're just gonna have to live with the noises. Next up is a really hard-hitting one, but it's so beautiful, and that is A Heart in a Body in the World by Deb Coletti. The title is so tongue twister, but guys, this book is amazing. This book is just so beautiful, and it needs to be read more. It's getting around a little bit more here on BookTube, but not enough in my opinion. It's a book I think everyone could benefit from reading. Honestly, it's beautiful. This is about a character named Annabelle. Something has happened to Annabelle in her past or recently that you don't know as a reader, and throughout the book you kind of can piece together, and by the end you fully know, but at the beginning you don't know what has happened to her, and I don't want to spoil it for you. There's a lot of triggers in it. That's all I can say without spoiling it, so just be wary of that. If you really want to know, I'm sure you can find the information, or you can ask me and I will share with you, but I don't want to spoil it for the sake of that. So Annabelle has had something really traumatic happen to her, and she is a runner, and she decides she is going to run from Seattle, Washington, all the way to Washington, D.C. That's right, because she has to attend this political thing, and she also really wants to make a difference. So she teams up with her grandpa, who has an RV. Her brother is at home. He like does this media thing for her. He maps out, so she runs each day, then goes to sleep in the RV, and she just wants to do this because she wants to make a difference, and it really is going to help her kind of heal from this really big wound that she has in her heart. The book, there will be facts about the heart that are shared that Annabelle really looks into, but it's a beautiful book that is about somebody that's had something really traumatic happen to them and how they kind of not move on from it, but how they cope with it, how they try to make a difference about it. And again, beautiful, beautifully written, beautifully told. One of my favorite books of all time. Everyone needs to read this for sure. Another one of my favorite underrated gems I can talk is You'll Miss Me When I'm Gone by Rachel Lynn Solomon. She also has another one called Our Year of Maybe that I would recommend as well, but this one is my favorite by her. She just writes hard-hitting stuff. This one is about two twin sisters, Adina and Tova, and they don't have anything in common besides, their family. They're Jewish, and the fact that their mother is suffering from Huntington's disease. And basically, there's this genetic test that they can take when they turn 18 to figure out if they will have that gene or not. And spoiler warning, not really. One of them has it, and one of them does not have that gene. So it's about how they cope with it and how these sisters that were once really, really close are not close at all anymore. And there's a big split in the relationship. And throughout the book, you learn why and how they grow together, also with their Jewish heritage and with their mother, who they're slowly losing to Huntington's disease. And it's just really hard for one of the twins knowing that that will be her next. And it's a beautifully told book. It is sad. I'm not going to lie to you at all. It's a sad one. It will make you cry probably. But again, it has a lot of family in it, a lot of religion, like I said, with Jewish, which I appreciated so much because I don't know anything about the Jewish culture, but I appreciated it so much more after reading this book. And the fact with the genes and Huntington's disease, like it's a very scary and real thing a lot of families go through. So would recommend. She writes really hard-hitting books. Except another sad, really hard-hitting one is The Names They Gave Us by Emery Lord. Perhaps, I think, my favorite Emery Lord, honestly. This one is all about a character named Lucy who everything's going right for her. She's going into her senior year. She's like the swim team captain. Her dad's a pastor, and everything's just going awesome. And then she learns that her mother's cancer is returning, and they don't know if she's going to win the battle again this time. And every summer, her and her family like host this church camp and for youth and things like that. But her mom actually wants her to go to the camp across the lake where like the troubled youth go, like a totally different camp. And she wants her to get a different experience of different kids and what they're going through, foster kids and adoptive kids and kids that are just going through a really hard time. And Lucy really doesn't want to go, but she wants to please her mother because she loves her mother and she doesn't know how much longer she has left. And in an emotionally charged and unforgettable story of love, loss, family, and friendship, Emery Lord's gorgeous writing shines a light through the darkest of times. And that's exactly the way I describe this. It's a beautifully told book. It deals with a lot of sad things, obviously with cancer, which is a big trigger for me. I have a really hard time reading books about that, with losing family members in particular. But just the experience Lucy gets from meeting different kids and going to a different camp. Again, this talks about religion, and I am religious. I am very much a Christian, and I get really worried when books talk about it because I don't know how they're going to paint Christianity, and the way I see Christianity, someone could see completely different. And I really enjoyed that Emery Lord, I thought did really good with this book. I think she represented it very well, and I felt like it was true. Again, family, loss, religion, just a lot of really hard-hitting things all in one in this book. Next up, I'd say if you've read Far From the Tree and you really love that book and you're trying to find a book that's similar to that, The How and Why is great for that by Cynthia Hand. This one is also a story about adoption mainly. And in this book, we have a character named Cassandra who has a family. She has two adoptive parents that she just loves and adores, but again, she finds something missing. So she decides to try to find her biological mother, and she can't really find her except for these letters. She learns that her biological mother wrote her letters when, she was pregnant with her and left them to her when she was the right age. The book has two different timelines of Cassandra going through and finding these letters and, you know, dealing with that, with also loving her adoptive parents. Then we also go back in time to see Cassandra's mom and see what she was going through when she was pregnant with Cassandra, and writing down how she felt and what she wanted to say and about her life. And it's just a really beautiful book about adoption, about family, and just, I love it so much. Highly recommend it. Again, if you liked Far from the Tree, you'll definitely love this one. Last book I have to share with you guys is Little Do We Know by Tamara Ireland Stone. Again, another underrated read that I adored. And we have Hannah and Emery, and they were best friends. They were tied to the hip, and then something happened, and now they're like ex-best friends, and both of them lead very different lives. So Emery is fine-tuning her UCL, performing arts application and trying to make the most of the month she has left with her boyfriend Luke. Meanwhile, Hannah's strong faith is shaken when her family's financial problems come to light, and she finds herself turning to unexpected places and people. And it's about them coming together again, about confiding to each other. Again, this one talks about religion because Hannah's dad is a pastor and she really struggles with her faith in this book. And I really loved reading about that because I think we all struggle with our faith. If you are religious at all, no matter what religion, I think at some point in time you're going to struggle with your faith. And it's just really encouraging almost to read about that because there's no one that's perfect with their faith at all. We all struggle with it daily, I would say. So I loved reading about that, how Hannah was really having a hard time with that. I also loved the friendship in this book. Goodness, it was so beautiful. And just overall, it was a beautiful read. Would highly recommend. This one and a lot of these ones are more character driven, I would say, than plot driven, but needless to say, they're all amazing. Those are some of my favorite hard-hitting contemporary books. Books that are just have a little bit more of an emotional punch, a little bit more of an emotional impact, and will probably make you cry, and it'll punch you in the stomach. But they're all beautiful in their own right, and I hope that I recommended some that you haven't heard before, and if I have, let me know. I would also love to hear some of your favorite hard-hitting contemporaries. I know I didn't mention them all, but I did a video like this 2 years ago, so hopefully there's some new books that I talked about today. But again, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.